We're going to see the Staten Island Rapid Transit now in its old days with grade crossings and old-fashioned cars. There's been a number of changes made in the line. For one thing, the Transit Authority has taken it over. That definitely means it's gone downhill. They've put all 44 style cars on the line, and a lot of things have changed in Staten Island itself. It's built up quite a bit. So what you're seeing here is just about a vanishing piece of an actual part of New York City. Now we begin by looking at the line on its northern portion. We're at Tompkinsville. The line started at St. George Ferry. The New York City ferries met the boats, and the people from Staten Island commuted down the island on the trains. Originally there were 3 branches: Main Line to Tottenville, South Beach branch, and a Port Ivory branch. The South Beach and Tottenville branches go through a tunnel that's about 3/4 of a mile long, and then come outside and spend the rest of the trip out in the open. It's odd to note that the line was owned by the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, and these electric cars you're seeing here actually had Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Class EM1 on them. That's a northbound train. It's going towards St. George. This is the result of a fire. The company had a very, very old wooden shop building, and I guess it was an accident, or could it have been insurance? I was very upset by it. I happen to like the cars very much. Getting a lot of sun flare here or something. These films go back quite a way, so you may get some fading and whatnot have you in them. Now we're out along line side, and this is just past Clifton shops where the fire took place, and we're looking up the long hill to Grassmere. I think Richard would have enjoyed the fact that the cars really ground up this hill. The cars themselves were built to New York City subway car standards, and they were actually compatible with one set of city subway cars, with the exception of the doors. Train coming down Grassmere Hill. In normal non-peak operation, the trains were run as 2-car sets. In the rush hour, they sometimes went up to 5, but the normal train was 4 cars. Now we get into the interesting part of the line, the grade crossings. Cars did get their electrical power from a third rail, potential of 600 volts DC. And we've moved down the line now. We're at Old Town Station. The line was operated very rural in favor, and it was quite often that the train crew would wait till somebody descended the stairs, even though the timetable said to go. There were a number of contests between trains and motorists. Predictably, the train always won. When the line was owned by the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, they were reluctant to pump vast amounts of money into it to have a grade crossing separation program, as the city pushed for. And as soon as the takeover by the city became imminent, the city pumped many millions of dollars in to get the grade crossing separation program pushed through. So what you're seeing now is all gone. As you saw earlier, the line was 14.2 miles long. As originally built, there were 75 motor cars and 25 trailers. The trailers weren't used that much, and quite a few of them were sold to the New York City Transit Authority. The Transit Authority used them mostly for maintenance away rider cars. This is my attempt at being an Audi with a fade in, fade out by hand. This is the New Dorp station, and the gates, crossing gates at this station, were operated by hand pump. And possibly you can see the station building on the other side, which has since been taken away and preserved at Richmond Town, which is a historical group of buildings on Staten Island. I see the train going around an odd little jog here. This section of track was in swampy ground, and the shoe fly or little diversion had to be made to get into solid ground. You can see the earthworks being done for the new grade separation program. The line was and is still very heavily traveled, the one line remaining. The other line to South Beach was strictly a summer type operation, and the line to Port Ivory is still being used as a diesel hauled freight line. About the only traffic that was on the Port Ivory line was workers going to and from factories in Port Ivory after Procter & Gamble Company. We're getting further south down on the line now. This is Princess Bay Station, which is about 2/3 of the way south along the island. I'm very sorry, there's something wrong with this projector. It doesn't like showing regular 8 film. Sorry. The line was interesting, and it started out in a tunnel, ran along at ground level, later became elevated on a fill, came back down to ground level, and then ran in a cut, and ended up at Tottenville on ground level. Now we're down at Tottenville, which is the end of the line and the bitter end of Staten Island. That's the bridge that connects Staten Island with New Jersey. And here we get a close-up look of one of the Standard Steel Car Manufacturing Company trucks that are under the car. The cars, as I will point out, were built by the Standard Steel Car Manufacturing Company, had automatic couplers that made up the mechanical, air, and electrical parts. Now we're on the platform at Tottenville, and we see a train arriving from St. George. The men who operated the train were all qualified Baltimore and Ohio Railroad engineers. And this was known as the Perth Amboy subdivision of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. The trains were run according to timetable, but each train did have a written train order before it left its terminal. At one time, the building to your right was a little ferry that connected with Perth Amboy, New Jersey. Now we're back at Tompkinsville, just on the south end of the tunnel, and we're in an evening rush hour. That was a 2-car short-turn train. He was only going to Great Kills, which is a little better than halfway down the line. We have a 4-car train that's just come back from Tottenville. Followed by another. Mechanically, up until the time the cars were scrapped in the late 60s, they were maintained in excellent condition. Now the locomotives, although they belong to the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, were lettered Staten Island, and that's a diesel goods train coming up to St. George. When he gets through the tunnel, rather than going into the passenger terminal, he'll go across the bottom leg of a Y into the freight yards. See the lengths American Rail fans will go to get a picture? Climbing on top of a dirty old coal car. But when the snow got a little bit deep, and there we see a 1-car train coming around the Y, this is not normal operation. Trains were normally operated as 2-car trains. As I was saying about the sweeper, when it got a little deep, they had to use the diesels to push it. And there were special jumpers on the diesel to supply electric to it. I could feel the third rail shoes coming past my ears. This is the Jefferson Avenue station, and now we're going to pace the train from Jefferson Avenue to Dongan Hills. This type of railroading in America today is dead. There's nothing left other than tourist railways where you can open the windows and enjoy the summer breeze, listen to the traction motors, and smell the hot gear lubricant and the brake shoe smoke. And we leave Staten Island.